No declarations of interest. Minutes of the previous meeting. Do members agree to approve the minutes? Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? Cabinet therefore agrees the approval of the minutes as a correct record by affirmation. Item 4 is announcements. I don't have any announcements. Do you think Exec has no announcements? No? Okay, so moving swiftly on. Public questions. We have had a public question submitted, but the person has not attended in person. Do we need to send a... What do we normally do? Do we normally send a... All right. So perhaps they'd like to come for our next meeting and ask their question. Thank you. Okay. So moving on. Update on Scrutiny and Overview Committee. Councillor Bradnam, do you want to speak now, or do you want to speak within the body of the meeting? Okay. Thank you very much indeed. So starting off with the item 7 is the Q2 performance report, and Councillor John Williams is going to introduce this.
Thank you, Leader. I'm very delighted to be able to introduce this report for the second quarter. It follows on from the first quarter, which showed that we were exceeding in most areas or meeting our KPIs, and the second quarter continues to show a positive improvement. And I think I would only comment, the only area where we have 3 in our RAG sort of colour coding is in the average days to relet housing stock. And as we know, we have set ourselves a very tough target on that of 17 days, whereas the average for councils is just over 32 days. So, and we are actually achieving better than that average anyway. So, nevertheless, though, I think you know, we have set ourselves a tough target on this, one in which you know, we're determined to meet. But you know, don't be alarmed by that intervention, because we are doing better than the average of other authorities that have housing stock. So, but otherwise, it's an extremely good quarter again, and really does demonstrate that you know, we are maintaining, if not improving, our performance across the board.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Councillor Henry Batchelor, I think you're going to second. Do you want to comment at this stage?
Well, just to confirm that, yeah, happy to second the recommendation, and to say it's so pleasing to see, you know, a lot of improvement as time has gone on from quarter to quarter. I mean, especially, for example, on the average call time answered when it was back in July, 184 seconds, and now it's more than half that at 78 seconds as of September. So, yeah, I'm perfectly happy to second the report, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Any comments from, I'm going to come to scrutiny in a minute. Any other comments from Cabinet? No, Councillor Bradnam, would you like to come in now?
Thank you, Chair, Leader. Scrutiny and overview members asked a number of questions on a number of the RAG ratings, but were very satisfied with the progress that's been made, and we commended these to the Cabinet, as it says in the paper, but no real comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, it is very gratifying to see that the efforts of our staff are undoubtedly leading to the continuous improvement that we as a council strive for. So marvellous. So it's recommended, the recommendations are, where are they? Recommendations are on page 19, and A, to review the KPI results and comments at Appendix A, and the progress and delivery of the 23-24 business plan output at Appendix B, and recommend where appropriate any actions required to address issues identified within appendices. So, do Cabinet agree with recommendations? Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? Good. Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals by affirmation. Thank you very much indeed. And item 8 is the Rural England Prosperity Fund, and John Williams is going to introduce this, and I will happily second it. So over to you, John, again.
Thank you, Leader. I'm doing this instead of Peter MacDonald, who's the lead member for this, as he's got a county council meeting this morning. But I know he and the business team have put a lot of work into this, and I'm very delighted to be recommending the, to moving the recommendations in the report. I think it's very important for us that because we don't have a town or a market town or a city at our centre, we are in fact a district of 106 parishes and of course our 2 town councils, and so therefore this funding is very important to us to be able to support our rural businesses, as well as the fact that we are influenced by the Greater Cambridge area and the prosperity that that's delivering, and also the importance of startups in supporting that economy. So I'm very delighted to move the recommendations so that we can press on and start to allocate the fund that has been given to us.
Thank you very much. Any questions from any members of Cabinet? No, thank you. So it's really good that government have devolved this money down to district level. I hope in recognition of the fact that it's us that know our communities and know our businesses best, and therefore it's exactly right that it's this level of local government that's responsible for disseminating this money. This is obviously a two-year project. Government is certainly looking for early delivery on the money. They've made it pretty hard to actually get the whole system started. It's been tricky, hasn't it? But we finally know where we are. I'm very enthusiastic about the investment in Northstowe Cafe and Gym. I think we've really turbocharged what's happening at Northstowe now, and I think that's recognised by the residents and certainly by the town council, who I went to see last week, who were very welcoming. And I'm also delighted to see some investment in Camborne as well on the footpath accessibility project, because I think this time last year I got covered in mud trying to walk the path that leads to the school, and I witnessed children arriving on their bikes splattered with mud, which I imagine delighted their teachers and their parents when they got back home. So I think this is a very wise intervention in 2 new communities by this council. I'm sure it will go down very, very well. So if there's no more remarks or questions, recommendations are set out on page 65 going on to page 66. So we're allocating just under 300,000 of the fund to a series of capital projects within the district in this financial year, and then just shy of 900,000 to a grant scheme to be available to communities and businesses to apply for the next financial year. And I think work is ongoing on what the terms of reference is going to be for that. But that's going to be very, very exciting indeed, and something I'm very pleased that the responsibility has been devolved to us, because I know that we can deliver really good schemes that benefit the whole of the district. So, do cabinets agree with the recommendations? Anyone wish to vote against? Anyone abstaining? So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals by affirmation. Thank you. And moving on to item 9, which is the health and wellbeing strategy. So this is over to Councillor Bill Handley, and Councillor John Batchelor is seconding this, I believe. So thank you, Bill. Oh, I'm sorry? Oh, sorry, have I missed item 8? I've just done item 8. Yeah, I've done item 8. Yes, so we're now on 9. Jolly good. Councillor Handley, please.
Good morning, everyone. This is a refresh of the Council's health and wellbeing strategy, and it's needed for a few reasons, such as the lessons learned during the COVID pandemic, the cost of living crisis, and also because of changes to the way health services are delivered now, notably the formation of the integrated care system. The Scrutiny and Overview Committee, I know Councillor Badnam will give us some more detail in a moment, but they've been involved in the development of this revision. A workshop was held in the summer, and the views expressed there were incorporated into the report. The Scrutiny and Overview Committee also gave the report a pretty thorough examination, and an additional para was added to the previous draft following comments on the challenges that some people face, you know, getting to medical appointments, for example, due to the poor or non-existent public transport. This is an excellent report. I'd like to thank officers for it, particularly Leslie McFarland, and the recommendation shown on page 113 that Cabinet approves the report and the associated appendices.
Thank you, Councillor Handley. Councillor Batchelor?
Yes, happy to second this. Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Jolly good, thank you. Scrutiny and Overview, Anna Bradman.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, we found this a really heartening report, seeing what we've been able to do to help our residents during the difficult times of COVID, and also, but recognising, as Councillor Handley has said, the difficulties, particular difficulties around transport and other aspects that I'll come to. So one of the things that was proposed was that we would ask lead cabinet members, the lead cabinet member for communities, to look again at how the council can support community transport schemes to find more volunteer drivers, because we already have a number of volunteer driver schemes to take people to hospital appointments and appointments when they either cannot use the bus, or the bus isn't, they don't have a bus, or for whatever reason. But from my own experience in Milton and Waterbeach, we know that we have an excellent car scheme with a number of really diligent volunteers, and yet still they don't have enough drivers to do all the calls that they're being asked to do. So if any help can be given to support communities in finding new drivers, that would be most welcome. And also looking at best practice for schemes, because obviously it's not an entirely straightforward job, and so encouraging people to take it on when they can would be most welcome. And indeed, for example, in Camborne here, they have a WhatsApp group that could be, you know, that same technology could help other groups when they want to make unplanned journeys or where community transport is not an option. We also looked at the aspects of mental health, and we recognised the complexity of this and the need to work with the integrated care system so that our delivery is dovetailed with and not at odds with. So we hope that the council can seek to enhance those relationships with the integrated care system. And finally, on this paper, we talked about communication, and I'll just read the report. It's while noting that there's an extensive network of communication channels used to promote health and well-being measures, including more passive channels such as the South Cambs magazine, which we recognise for its value in that it goes to every home. The Scrutiny and Overview Committee calls for ongoing active promotion to be used as well whenever possible to ensure those most in need are being supported, so by social media as well. And, you know, anything that the Scrutiny and Overview Committee can do to help that, we'd be very welcome. But certainly those are the things that concern us. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Handley, do you want to respond to any of those points?
Well, just to say they're noted. The Scrutiny and Overview Committee did give this a very good examination. I was really pleased with the way it was received as well. Yeah. I've taken those notes on board. Thank you, Councillor Bradham.
Thank you very much. I think, you know, the relationship we have with the Integrated Care Service is, I think, is very good, thanks to Liz Watts, actually. and through the Public Service Board. You know, back in 2018, we had no relationship with health providers at all. So I think we're in a very, very good place now. We're in a strong position to build on that. Also through the work of the combined authority, because we obviously have a mayor who's a public health worker, and has health and well-being very much at the top of his list of priorities. And it's certainly something that it's becoming part of discussions far more. I mean, when we talk about public transport, it's in the report, it's one of the determinants of health, of good health. So I think this is going to become very much an overarching priority for all councils, really. So thank you to Leslie McFarlane, who's done a massive amount of work on this. The recommendation on page 113 is that the strategy and its appendices are approved by Cabinet today. Do Cabinet agree with the recommendation? Anyone vote against? Anyone abstain? No, thank you very much indeed. So that's good. And item 10 is now the proposed fees and charges. Councillor John Williams is going to introduce it, and Councillor Henry Batchelor has volunteered to second it.
Thank you, Leader. I'm very pleased to be able to move this, the recommendations in this. I think this again shows what a strong and robust council this is. If you look at take first of all to the savings part of this, you'll see that 400,000 additional income from investments, over 190,000 in additional income from fees from our planning service, 250,000, £250,000 found by our review of our underspends. We continually look for how we're making our budget more removing any sort of
Sorry, I'm sorry to
waste
interrupt,
within our
Councillor Williams.
budget.
Are you definitely? I think you're overlapping between reports. You're speaking to item 10, are you? Specifically on fees and charges.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking about.
I know there's lots of overlap. I know. I was just trying to work
I
out.
do apologise.
That's all right. Your excitement. Thank you.
Right. Okay, fees and charges. Just to say on fees and charges, I mean, one of the things we want to do is to ensure that we cover our costs in planning, and the government is enabling us now to do that. We don't feel it's right that our council taxpayers should be subsidising the work we do for developers, and we are now. You'll see that we intend to we're aiming for full cost recovery from developers through our planning fees, and there are also other increases in line with inflation. Like everybody else, we have to buy in goods and services, and we have to reflect the increase in costs that we are incurring. And unfortunately, we have to pass that on to our to those who use our services and pay for them. But otherwise, I hope you'll see that it's a reasonable, sort of increase, and that obviously increases are needed to keep up with costs, and they flow through to us being able to continue to deliver services at a good quality. So I would recommend that you approve the changes to the fees and charges in the report.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Batchelor, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you. Happy to second, Leader, but just a quick comment. So members may see that there are some lines highlighted in a peachy colour. Just to make everyone aware, these are fees that are set nationally, so we don't set them locally, they're set by central government. And there are specifically some gaps where we haven't set a fee for this year. That's because we're waiting for that fee to be set by government. So if there are any gaps, predominantly in my own portfolio, that's because we're waiting for that fee to be set by central government.
Thank you, that's really helpful information. Councillor Bradman, did scrutiny want to comment on this?
No, scrutiny didn't, but I would, if I may.
Of course you may.
Thank you. I just wanted to ensure that, thinking about pre-app advice, as a chair of one of the council's planning committees, I'm very mindful how much benefit is gained by the time we get to planning application stage if an applicant has taken pre-application advice. And I'm just hoping that the fees and charges Councillor Williams has talked about, full cost recovery, and that's right and appropriate, but I hope it wouldn't discourage applicants from taking pre-application advice because it's so very valuable in the evolution of their plans. I wondered if anyone could comment on that.
Councillor Williams.
I would just say it's in their interest because, you know, if they don't take pre-app advice and the application's therefore not successful, I would have said that yes, it helps us if obviously their application is fit for purpose, but also it's in their interest because they don't want to see their application fail and that money that they've spent on that application wasted. So it is in their interest to seek pre-application advice. And as I said, going back to what I've said, our view is that particularly in Greater Cambridgeshire, where we are seeing a lot of development, a lot of very big development, and of course, you know, looking forward to Cambridge 2040, there will be more development happening, large-scale development happening, that large-scale development should be paid for by the developer, not by the council taxpayer.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Can I bring in Peter Maddox, please?
Yeah, all I was going to say was that there's always a balance to be had between cost recovery and, you know, making sure that services are accessible. I think in this particular case, as John said earlier, I think we wouldn't want an additional burden on other taxpayers. I think it's right and proper that we charge based on cost recovery for something like this. But I take the point, you know, it's possible somebody could, in theory, be put off.
Councillor Bradman?
Thank you. Yes, I absolutely agree. The cost shouldn't fall to our residents. The point, though, is that, of course, pre-application advice is voluntary, and so they're volunteering to pay a fee to get our advice, and so some don't. And we often see that applications are the poorer for it. So it'd be good to get the balance right, and it's right and proper that they should pay. And let's face it, the most responsible and often the best developers do take pre-app advice, and it's in their favour because they get a better application out of it.
I think the key thing is that it's seen to be a valued quality service, and people are willing to pay, you know, a fair amount for a high quality service. So, you know, and I think the reputation of our joint planning service actually is greatly enhanced of late. So, you know, hopefully that will encourage it as well. Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll move on to the recommendations on page 139, which is to approve the fees and charges as detailed in Appendix A of the report to take effect on the 1st of April 24, unless otherwise stated, or the earliest feasible date thereafter, and note the proposed variations in fees and charges in comparison to the prevailing inflation rate detailed in the report. So our Cabinet happy to accept those recommendations? Anyone wish to vote against? Anyone wish to abstain? Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals by affirmation. So, Councillor Williams, we're now on item 11.
Thank you,
Local
Negan.
fund revenue goods and savings.
Yeah, back on track again. Sorry about that. Yes, so going back to what I was saying originally, I'd like to go first of all to the savings and income generation, which is on page, I think it's 171. I'm not sure of our report, certainly 171 on Gov. You'll see there that, you know, we are looking at some very big figures there. We're looking for savings, you know, from, as I say, our underspends, and we continually review our budget and look for those items where, you know, they're in the budget, but actually at the end of every year we find we've underspent on them. So we're constantly doing that to ensure that every penny that's put in the budget is actually spent. There's no point in putting money in the budget if it's not going to be spent, because obviously that carries on through to the council tax that our residents pay. So I'm very pleased that we are continuing to do that work, and say some £250,000 has been saved by doing that. And also I'm very pleased about the income from our commercial investments. We set ourselves an aim about when we first took over the administration of this council, we set ourselves an aim that 25% of our income would come from commercial investments. And I'm very pleased to say that we have met that aim and are delivering on that. And that again is helping us to provide services that we wouldn't otherwise be able to provide if we were simply relying on our council tax and business rate. So it's very, very, very heartening to see that. And then going to those items that officers have asked to add to the budget, you'll see that in most cases it's about creating new posts or about changing temporary posts into permanent posts, because again we've seen that the council grow and the offer that we're making to our residents grow, and therefore we need additional staff to be able to do that, and we're able to fund that additional staff, as I've said, because we're being able to find savings and additional income. So all in all, it's a very satisfactory report, and I will recommend it to Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor John Batchelor, you were seconding this?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, delighted to second this. As Councillor Williams has said, I mean, what it's displaying is the strength of our budgets here, which many of our compatriots around the country would be more than delighted to see similar outturns. And in this particular area, it also demonstrates, you know, that we're on a path of constant improvement. And congratulations to all those involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I was reading today's paper about, you know, the struggles that Somerset are having with, you know, eye-watering numbers that need saving. It's very sad indeed. And I'm very interested that the traffic lighting is on the climate impact. I think that's just recently been introduced, and you know, makes an interesting addition to the report. So thank you very much indeed. The recommendations are on page 163. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Councillor Bradman. Sorry, so keen to romp on. Over to you.
Right. Thank you very much, Leader. Broadly speaking, we were very encouraged by the report and very heartened by the work that the Council has done to make sure our finances are in such a good position. Very very heartening considering what other councils are going through locally. And we were happy to commend the recommendations. But we just had a couple of questions. One was relating to new digital phone lines. And I think this related to on page, it's 167, because we were just slightly concerned that if we were going over to digital phone lines, would they still support the red button alarm systems that are in many of our supported living, but also that many of our elderly residents use? The actual terminology was looking forward to committee members being kept informed about the progress and notified the measures to protect the functionality of red button systems. The question, I think, was, will they work with a new digital system? And the second thing, we questioned a number of new roles at the council. Sorry, that was on page 167. I think it related to transformation. I'm not sure. I think it was there. And the second thing on that page was the empty homes officer in the middle of that page. Amongst other posts that have been proposed, we questioned quite hard on the value for money aspects of having an officer, especially to do this. And we were very much reassured at the reduction in void time of our properties as a result of this role, but also engaging with people who have empty homes, you know, private owners who have empty homes, and engaging with them and encouraging them to sell them so that they could be brought back onto the market and made into homes for people in South Cambridgeshire. So we found that very reassuring, and we received a detailed note as well separately. So thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Yes, and I think we took away the question about the alarms. I don't know if we've got to the bottom of it yet. Councillor Batchelor, you might know, mightn't you? Or you might know it's a work in progress.
It is. The whole area of Lifeline is being reviewed at the moment. But just to be clear, in our own sheltered housing, we don't actually charge for the facility. So we're still supporting our own people. But Lifeline is a commercial operation, and it's not just our own properties. We actually support the private sector as well. And the difficulty there is that there's a lot of competition, and we're reviewing at the moment to see if it, in the medium term, is viable.
Okay, jolly good. I mean, but I think the main question was about whether technically it would continue to work. So I don't know. Does Peter Campbell want to come in on that, or whether changing to digital would actually make a difference?
Yeah, if I may, Chair, only to inform members that there will be a report coming to informal cabinet in the next 2 or 3 weeks, specifically about this, with a lot more detail in. So rather than giving you a bland answer now, if you can just wait until that main report comes through, it'll be there.
Thank you. So I thank Scrutiny for raising that. I think Councillor Williams first and then Councillor Bradnam.
Yeah, just a point of information, actually. We're seeing BT change its normal telephone lines to digital. I mean, certainly in my case, that happened a couple of months ago, where no longer the BT telephone number is actually now a digital number. They don't use the copper wire anymore. It comes through the same box as the internet. So I think this is an issue that everybody's going to have to face eventually as we go digital.
Councillor Bradnam.
Sorry, yes, to clarify, the concern was the technology, the fact that we're going to analogue, remove the analogue system, and it's the analogue system that drives the Lifeline systems. So we wanted to make sure that we had a clear way ahead to maintain those systems for our
absolutely. Councillor Batchelor.
Thank you. Just going on to a different topic, on the post of the empty homes officer, it's probably worth, I appreciate this will have been gone over in scrutiny, but just to be clear, so the post has been a temporary post for the past 2 years, and we're just proposing on making this permanent, because over the last 2 years, the value we've seen in having that officer in post has been huge. I'm not underplaying that. It's been significantly beneficial to the authority, because I think what we've seen is bringing an empty home back into use is obviously a lot more efficient than having someone build a new one. So that's sort of the value that we've seen over the past 2 years. So, in terms of RAG rating, it's rated green, but I mean, I can't stress how valuable that officer has been to us over the last 48 months.
Thank you very much indeed. So, yes, and at a time when other councils are losing staff, I'm really, really pleased to see we are investing in our staff, because they are without doubt our biggest asset, and without them we won't achieve what we want to achieve. So, okay, so there's no more questions. I'll move on to the recommendations at page 163. It's a bit long, so I won't read it. Are Cabinet happy to agree with the recommendations? Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals by affirmation. And item 12 now is the capital programme update and new bits. Yes, Councillor Williams, I'm just checking. I'm just going, am I? Yes, yes, just do a little check here for the right place.
Yeah,
Councillor Williams, thank you, and I'm happy to second.
It's the Councillor Williams show this morning, isn't it? I'm not going to say very much on this, it speaks very much for itself, but I will highlight paragraph 25 in this report, and I think it demonstrates the ingenuity of our officers on this council and the reason why we run a very tough, financially we are in such a good position, because we are always constantly looking for ways to save money. And I think this really shows that, you know, really demonstrates that in the fact that we had an opportunity of an ex-demonstration road sweeper come up and we snap it up, you know, and we save ourselves a lot of money. And this is what we're doing constantly. Our officers are doing this all the time, which is why, you know, we are in such good financial shape in this council. I just thought I'd bring that to Cabinet's attention.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions from Cabinet? No? Okay, thank you for what you've said, Councillor Williams. I've nothing to add to that. So if we move to the recommendations on page 173. Sorry? I'm seconding it. Page 173. Do members agree with the recommendations? Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals by affirmation. And item 13. Councillor Williams again. I think Councillor Handley seconding this one. So this is the revenue and capital budget monitoring for Q2. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Leader. I think the big story on this is the amount of money we haven't had to find this year for agency staff, particularly in planning. If you compare this quarter with Q2 last year, we were having to find some £250,000 because we couldn't recruit to difficult posts in planning. This year, because of I'm going to say a 4-day week trial, we have virtually eliminated that. And therefore, you know, that £250,000 odd pounds can now be put to better use, rather than paying above the odds for staff because we have to use agency staff. So if anything illustrates the success of the 4-day week trial, it is that figure in that second quarter. And it follows on obviously from the first quarter, which also showed that that we were starting to get on top of the problem of the cost of agency staff, and the 4-day week is certainly proving, you know, to show that we are definitely saving money as a result of the trial.
Thank you. Councillor Handley.
Very happy to second this. I've nothing much to add except to say what fantastic news about agency staff, and I hope we can make something of it for comms, because I, for one, have been getting tackled in my local ward about what the 4-day week's about, and this is a very good example of where it's very positive news.
Absolutely, and we mustn't lose sight of the problem that we set out to solve through the trial, which was that of recruitment and retention and spending an awful lot of money on agency staff. Now, we'll always need agency staff because we have lots of short-term projects, pieces of work to do, and agency staff are the most cost-effective way of doing those time-limited pieces of work. But where it doesn't work in our favour is when, you know, it's the long-term solution to long-term problems of recruiting the sort of people we really need to deliver our core services, especially in planning. So yeah, that is good news, and let's just hope government think it's good news as well. So the The recommendations are on page 191. Do members agree with the recommendations? Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? Good. Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals by affirmation. And that brings us on to the last item of the morning. This is a record, which is the Uttlesford Draft Local Plan. So I will introduce this, and Councillor Henry Batchelor will second it, because he lives quite close to it. So, you know, Uttlesford are now at the stage where, are we still under duty to cooperate rules for that? Or is that? Oh, hello, Stuart. Do you want to do a bit of an introduction? Because you can probably do it better than I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So yes, we are still under the duty to cooperate. This is the draft Uttlesford local plan, following a previous issues and options a couple of years back. Obviously, Uttlesford to the south of South Cambridgeshire. They are planning to progress to a Regulation 19 version of the plan, what they consider to be the final version of the plan next year. So the key points, I guess, about the content of the plan is that no new housing allocations are proposed close to South Cambridgeshire. The most substantive development proposed in the plan is additional employment land within the existing footprint of Chesterford Research Park, with further flexibility to support applications at that site beyond that. The plan does recognise the topic of water stress in the district and the wider area, and includes a number of policies to seek to try and address this. And it also seeks to take ambitious climate and biodiversity policies, for example, seeking 20% net gain for biodiversity. The proposed response, as a paragraph 10 of the report, focuses on water stress. So noting that they've taken an ambitious approach, there's a few key points noting that it would be very helpful to have further evidence that the level of extraction required can be supported sustainably, because that evidence isn't clear in the evidence supporting the draft plan. And then that there are additional policies seeking to address water supply in the chalk streams, I think could be made clearer and clearer in terms of how they could be implemented. Beyond the water, the other key point, I guess, is that it's just not clear currently to officers what the transport impacts of the expansion of the Chesterford Research Park might be, and so recommendation to just seek that clarity. And then, as per previous responses to neighbouring plans, officers are recommending just supporting the ambitious climate and biodiversity approaches in the Uttlesford plan. And that full response is at Appendix 1 to that report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stuart. That's really helpful. So it's obviously advantageous if local plans are complementary to each other, and I sense that's what we're going for here, because ours is very ambitious as far as the environment's concerned, and it would be, you know, I'm sure Uttlesford want theirs to be, but we're sort of asking for clarification, aren't we? And I'm glad we've put in about abstraction and the impact on the chalk streams as well. Councillor Batchelor, do you want to speak at this point?
Yeah, thank you. Just to clarify, I'm happy to second this. From a personal point of view, I think it's some relief, certainly in my ward, which does border Uttlesford, that the original plan to build a new town at Great Chesterford has been scrapped and the houses have been proposed elsewhere. I think there is certainly some relief amongst my parishes, and I'm sure those that also border Uttlesford. So I'm absolutely happy to support this response to Uttlesford's consultation. I think that's probably everything I need to say.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from Cabinet members? Councillor Bradnam?
Thank you, Leader. I come to this having had a similar discussion, as I say, as Chair of Joint Development Control Committee, when we were faced with an application for a business building that was quadrupling the footprint of the building, the floor space of the building, but we were being assured that it would use no more water than the existing building. And we cast around in our minds as to how we could actually ensure that that assurance was in fact delivered. And in fact, what came out of that discussion was the point that with residential premises, you could put a water meter on, but for business premises, of course, businesses buy their water from a wholesaler, and so there is no effect, there is no, as it were, water metering possible. And so what I would just like to urge Cabinet and planners is to consider, are there ways that we can monitor or seek a monitoring regimen so that we can ensure that assurances that are given under planning for water usage do transpire to be what is delivered in the living building that's built, or the development that's built, because it's easy to say, yes, we'll only use the same amount of water as this building, or indeed in this case, we'll ensure that abstraction from the aquifer does not harm the chalk environment. But we need to have ways of ensuring that actually is delivered when the development happens. And so if we can encourage and urge our planners to think in terms of ways of seeking, it might even need changes in government, but monitoring that as the development builds out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bradnam. And I mean, that's one of the issues that we are currently discussing with civil servants as part of Mr Gove's vision for Cambridgeshire. And he's got this water task force, obviously has to look in the round, not just at providing reservoirs and piping water down from goodness knows where, but also on water usage. And we are pretty profligate with our water use as things stand at the moment. So if there aren't any more questions, the recommendations are on page 216. Do members agree with recommendations? Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? That's fine. So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals by affirmation. Thank you very much, Stuart, to you and your team. It's a very, very good piece of work and very nicely presented in language that I can understand, which is really helpful. Thank you. So that brings us to the end. I haven't got a date for the next meeting, the next Cabinet meeting. 6th of February. Gosh, that's ages away. 6th of February, next Cabinet meeting. Okay. Special date in the middle of there. So thank you very much indeed, everybody. Thank you very much to all the officers who've contributed and participated.